Welcome back to this week's edition of Basscast on BassEast.com. Today we've got FLW Tour Pro Justin Lucas on the phone with us. What's going on, Justin?
Oh, just the same old things I do every day. Go buy my wife a new car.
Oh, wow. Lucky.
No, definitely not an everyday thing. It's the first time I've bought a new car in a long time, but my wife deserves it. She's been working hard, so I'm home for, throughout the week and getting ready for the Portswood Cup. So it's good times.
That's right. Headed to the Red River next week. We want to wish you the best of luck there for sure.
Heck yeah, man! I'm gonna need it. I'm pumped. I mean, anytime you get a chance, $500,000 against 46 guys. Obviously, pretty darn good odds, compared to what we normally have. So, definitely really excited about the tournament. I had a good Bassmaster Open tournament there in April and finished in the top 10. So, looking forward. I'm a lot more confident, fishing river-style places like that and the shallow, dirty water.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that kind of leads us to our topic tonight. I wanted to just kind of talk to you a little bit about soft plastics and choosing the right soft plastic for the situation. When you get to a lake, maybe a lake that you haven't fished a bunch, what are some of the things you look at to choose the first soft plastic bait you're gonna try to throw?
I like to keep my options really simple as far as when it comes to soft plastics. I look at the styles of baits that have been winning tournaments for the past several years and really try and base my decisions and choices on plastics based on the style, baits that win tournaments. So that's one thing that I really like about the soft plastics that I use from Tightlines UV. They've got the styles that win tournaments, whether it's a UV Beaver, a UV Hog, UV Finesse Worm, or a Uvanco. I mean, it's all the kinds of plastics that really work. And when you look at the list of stuff that they have and the things that I use that I just named, only one of those plastics actually even has any action, and that's the UV Hog, whether it's a 4-inch hog or 6-inch hog. It's the same style as a brush hog. But obviously, it's UV enhanced, and I feel like I get a few more bites from that. And that's the only bait out of those that has any action because of the curly tails it's got on it. And, if you look at past tournament success or baits that have won tournaments over the past several years, all those baits, come to mind very quickly, especially a beaver style bait. That's played a big role in the last few years. So, when I go to a place like the Red River, I've got that assortment of plastics with me. And I know that if I'm going to be pitching around stumps and that kind of thing, it's going to be a type of tournament that I know is going to be tough. I'm going to be focused on getting bites. And for me, if I'm pitching around stumps, it's going to be, a 4-inch UV Hog. It's a bait that I know gets bit. It's got a little bit of action to help entice some bites. And it's perfect, when you don't have a ton of grass that you're trying to flip through or whatever. But there is also grass at the Red River. So I'll also have a beaver-style bait rigged up without the curly tails and all the appendages on it. It's really going to be able to slide through the cover a lot better. And that's going to be my choice anytime I'm flipping around grass or pads or whatever else, any kind of vegetation over there. So, like I said, the most important thing for me is just keeping it basic and using baits that I know win tournaments.
Well, how about, understand that, and I think a lot of guys do get hung up in too many different style baits. I mean, I know I do myself. How about as far as color selection? Do you narrow that down, or do you, carry 25 different colors with you?
Absolutely keep it very, very simple. If I'm fishing dirty water, I pretty much know that I'm going to either be throwing a June bug style color or black and blue. And anytime I'm around dirty water, I don't care if it's up north or it's down south or out west or whatever, June bug and black and blue, they work in dirty water. And, that's a known fact. So I'm always going to have those two colors with me. and I'm always going to have watermelon red and green pumpkin. And I know that if I get in clearer water, those are going to be my choices. For any time I can see, I would say, maybe a foot or better, I'm going to use the green pumpkin or watermelon red. And other than that, it's going to be June bug or black and blue. And that's almost a rule of thumb for me 90% of the time. And I try not to get away from that, because when I show up to a lake or a new place for a tournament, and I've only got 3 days of practice, I've got to use the colors that I know work. There are certain places that have specific colors that really work, but I'm almost convinced too that it's kind of like that word of mouth. Like, oh man, if you're not throwing the root beer with green flake and blah blah blah, you're not going to get 30 bites a day. You're only going to get 15. Well, I mean, whatever. I've seen it all now, and there hasn't been too many times where if they're on a green or brown color, I've seen green pumpkin be outfished. So you can have all your different shades of it, but really when it comes back to, what matters, it's the fact that the bait is green pumpkin, and that's where it's coming off, that's what it's starting from. So colors, man, colors and styles, simplicity. The more simple you keep it, the better off you're going to be, no doubt about it.
All right. Well, that makes sense. I mean, it would be, it'd be kind of crazy to think that you guys stock every color of every bait, and I think that'll help people kind of narrow down what they need to take with them, and at least give everybody a good starting point there.
And I don't ever vary from that. I mean, it's the same thing everywhere I go, and I know that those styles of baits are going to work everywhere I go. So for me, if I tried to stock what I hear is the best plastic at every lake I go to, dude, I would have no room in my garage for the boat. I would have no room in the garage for anything, because every lake, they're like, oh man, this is the best plastic on this lake. But in all reality, I know that I can stick with my colors and my styles, and I'm going to go to every lake, and I'm going to give myself a chance at making a top 10 or maybe making a top 3 or whatever it is.
How about just quickly, could you maybe give everybody a thought on hook selection for each bait, and maybe what style weights you're going to be using? I know it's going to depend definitely whether you're fishing grass or flipping cypress knees, whatever the case is. It's going to be a little bit different, but maybe a basic setup that everybody should have in their boat to kind of cover everything.
Yeah, my favorite weight, I use EcoPro tungsten weights. They're the best tungsten weights on the market, hands down. They've got a seal coat finish on the paint. It's a matte finish, and at Okeechobee earlier this year, I had like 75 bites over the course of 2 days, and still had hardly any paint chipping off the weights. So that was, I got to plug them right there, because their weights, I've used them all, and they are hands down the best ones. But my favorite size that they make, if I'm flipping the UV hog around, not around vegetation, but around wood or docks or something like that, I'm going to use a 5/16 weight starting off, almost all the time. It's the perfect size in between a 3/8 and a quarter. It still allows me to cover water and fish the bait fast enough, and get bites that I know, if I need to slow down, I can scale back to a quarter. But most of the time, a 5/16 is just absolutely perfect for any kind of wood, stuff you're fishing. Now, when it comes to grass, that's where you really got to have a variance in your size weights, because sometimes the grass may be thin enough that you need only a 3/4 or maybe even a half. But there's also going to be times, obviously, Okeechobee is one of them, the Red River could be one of them, where you're going to need 1.5 ounces or possibly even 2 ounce weights to penetrate the grass. So anytime I'm fishing around grass, I'm going to have a big variety of weights, whether it's half all the way to 2. And anytime around any kind of wood, it's going to be 1/4 ounce, up to a 3/8. And, like I said, again, it's simple. I don't ever, there's very, very few times when I'll ever use lighter than a 1/4 on any of my plastic baits. unless I know for a fact, I'm fishing around fish and I can really slow down. And I gotta slow down to get those bites. That's the only time I'll ever get lighter than a quarter.
Perfect. And again, we've got the bait covered, we've got the weight covered. How about hook selection? Of course, we're
Yeah.
going to be some
Hooks are. Everybody's. It's funny. The funny thing about hooks is how picky everyone is on hooks. But again, I try and keep it the same everywhere I go. That way, nothing ever changes, and I know what's working for me. And I'm going to use an Owner J hook. It's a offset hook with an extra wide gap, or with a wide gap on it, similar to an EWG style or whatever. But I love the Owner J hook in a 4/0 or 5/0, and that's the one that I'm going to use anytime I'm around any kind of wood or whatever. I want that good bite in the hook, and the bait's not going to. It's not hitting a bunch of grass that's pulling the bait down, down the barb or whatever. So that's the style hook that I'm going to use around any kind of wood. Now, when we get to talking about grass again, that's when I'll go to a straight shank Owner hook. And the reasoning for that is I put my own barbs, up on the straight shank part of the hook to hold my plastics on there. Because when you are flipping around grass, your bait, your weight tends to hang up in some grass, and you'll normally pull the bait down off of any other kind of hook. And that's why I build a little barb. I actually did a tip on Bass East about how to make that barb. And, it's the perfect way, whether I'm reeling a worm through the grass and I'm really, digging it into the hydrilla, or if I'm flipping big mats, it's the best way to keep that plastic in the perfect position at all times.
great. That's a great tip, and I will find that video and post it on Bass East with this Bass Cast for sure.
That's a sweet. For me, like I said, that's just been that straight shank hook with that barb that I use. That hook from Owner, I've had tremendous success with it, and the same with the J hook. One thing I can say this year, and the reason that I feel like I've had, or a lot more, it's shown that I've had a better year in tournament results, is the lack of fish that I've lost. And I really credit that, to the Owner hooks. They're extremely sharp, and the barbs don't bend or roll, or the hook points don't bend or roll. And just a really neat hook. That's at a good price point. That's affordable, but it's got the qualities and features of any high-end hook out there. So you guys definitely check out Owner hooks. They make a great product.
Gotcha. And just quickly, if you could touch on, maybe your line choice, talk about, maybe an all-around rod and reel. Again, we know there's going to be different rod for grass, different rod for, pitching docks and stuff. And talk a little bit about the reel that, that you would be using in those situations.
Well, for me, anytime that I'm, and we've been talking mostly about flipping plastics and that kind of stuff, shallow water plastics, so far, so I'm going to stick with that. As far as line goes, I'm going to be using 15 to 20 pound Berkley Trilene 100% fluorocarbon all the time. Now, I will spool up with some braid. Obviously, for grass, definitely spool up with some braid. And there are several times too, around thin grass or even around some wood and everything, that I'll actually spool up with braid on there, and I'll 50 pound spider wire, and use a 2-foot leader of 15 or 17 pound Trilene fluorocarbon, and do it that way. I really feel with the braid, I get a good hook set. A lot of times when you're flipping or pitching around shallow targets, you get in a position when you need to set the hook, but you got your rod tip up in the air to let some line out or something. And I feel that the braid really, helps me when I need it to really get a good hook penetration in the fish's mouth. So I will use the braid a lot, but like I said, the majority of the time, unless I'm fishing around grass, I'm always going to have a fluorocarbon leader, and anywhere from 15 to 20 pound. And when I'm in the grass, it's 50 or 65 pound spider wire and nothing else, man. I mean, the one thing I'll say with braid around grass is if, I use a black marker and black it up, and it truly looks like, it belongs in the environment. Braid looks like a piece of grass in the water if you're fishing around it. So a lot of people tend to get line shy themselves from the braid line, but man, if I can ever get away with braid, I'm going to use it as much as possible because you have so many more advantages using braid and being able to battle those fish out of the grass. If it's going to allow me to put more fish in the boat, that's the route that I'm going to go.
Perfect. Sounds like we need to do a whole nother segment just on line choices for flipping and pitching, right?
That's crazy, man. I got all my little niche things I do, but every fishing is different. That's one of the things that I love so much about the sport and just fishing in general is how everyone attacks bass. Everybody goes at it a little bit differently, and truly no fish ever sees the bait presented the same way because everybody's rigs are different and how they work the baits are different. But I've learned from guys ahead of me, Dudley and Ayler and, the Iaconellis and all that kind of stuff, listening to things that they've said and trying them out myself, and obviously spend a lot of time on the water myself. And I feel like I got a pretty good system down, but there's always things that I need to be working on and getting better at too. And, I may not know everything about the plastic thing, but I feel like I got it pretty dialed in, and it's working for me right now.
Right. Take a little bit of information from, every source and make your own system is basically what you're saying.
It never hurts, man. Never hurts. I can't tell you how many times I'm not afraid to read another pro's article, If he's got something in there that I can learn from, fly right at it. Iaconelli, keep typing up your little blogs on Bassmaster, because I'm going to read them and I'm going to learn from you. And if it helps me beat them down the road, hey, that's it's just another tool, man, to read what these guys are doing. And I'm like anybody else, man. I'm a student of the sport. I want to learn as much as I can, and I'm gonna learn as much as I can on the water by myself. But I'm still, just like when I was in high school, I'm hiding Bassmaster magazines and FLW magazines in my binder and reading those instead of doing my math work. I'm still the same way, man. I'll sit in my office till late at night watching Aaron Martin's drop shot video or whatever it is, and just learning as much as I can. So it's still fun, and I enjoy the heck out of it.
Perfect, Justin. Well, look, man, we certainly appreciate you taking the time to be with us. I would like to just, before we get off here tonight, just touch real quick on, and I forgot to do this, on the rod selection. If you have just a quick second, you could talk about, a rod that you would use for light pitching and flipping the docks and whatnot, and then maybe talk about the stick that you would use for for punching that heavy grass.
Yeah, I've been working with Lime Glass. They've really made a heavy push back into the bass market with a price point rod at $99. It's the Excel 2, and really got on them for. I wanted the rods with the perfect actions for me, to be able to be versatile with the rods and use them in different conditions. So they have a 765 and a 766, and those are the two rods that I've been using a lot lately and really, really like them. They're light and they're all one piece, no telescopic handles or anything like that anymore. But for $99, really, really hard rod to beat, very light. And, when it comes down to reels, this is something that I should have mentioned as well. When you're working a plastic bait, you're, for the most part, either dropping it in real quick and shaking your rod a couple times or moving it with your rod tip. So something that's really important to me that has come out this last year was Adley Garcia with an 8-to-1 gear ratio reel. And that reel picks up 33 inches of line per turn. Now, they just came out with the Revo Rocket as well, and it picks up 37 inches per turn at a 9-to-1 gear ratio. So I'm going to be looking into that reel as well. But those high-speed reels like that, super fast reels, are going to help you pick up the line quick and be able to set the hook. And it could be that half a second. If you use a 6-4-1, I can reel up the line not quite twice as fast, but about, maybe it's a half a second faster or whatever. But we've all seen videos on bass spitting baits out and how fast they can suck one in and spit it out. So if that's another advantage that I can have, picking up the line quick, it's something I definitely want to take advantage of. And as far as plastics go, I recommend using the highest gear ratio you can get away with.
Perfect. All right, Justin. Well, we know you've probably got some packing to get done and a little bit of a drive in front of you.
Yeah, not bad. 10 hours, man. That's easy. I just drove back from Lake Oneida this week, and that was like 18 hours or something crazy, So 10 hours can seem like a walk in the park now.
How many smallmouth did you catch up there at Oneida?
Oh, practice was tough. I got on one stretch where I finally figured out how to catch them myself. And I had a little period there, like on the third day of practice, spent 5 days, never seen the lake, so I needed to learn it. But I got on one little period in like 3 hours and caught over 20 keepers, all between 2.5 and 3.5 pounds. So,
wow.
And then once the tournament came, 15 keepers a day or so. It was definitely a good time. A lot of 2 to 3 pound fish in that lake. Gosh, man, there's a lot of them. It's unreal. But great fishery. Very impressive.
All right, Justin. We'll get some rest this week, and we'll see you in Shreveport next week sometime.
All right, Ricky. Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
All right, everybody. This has been another edition of Bass East Basscast.